Assembly approves a new anti-hate law, one which also places restrictions on the media. Any outlet that broadcasts messages promoting hate and tolerance will be sanctioned or taken off air. Web pages will also be blocked. It's calling to all of Venezuela, she says. For social media there are specific regulations. The promotion of hatred is prohibited. They must remove messages that promote hate or war or intolerance. They must remove it within 6 hours or they'll be subject to sanctions and prosecution. Analysts say Venezuela's governing socialists are looking to crack down on dissent. The country's been rocked by violent protests for most of this year. The Constituent Assembly was installed in July with the aim of rewriting the constitution.
Colombian police have seized a 12-ton stash of cocaine worth over $1/3 billion in the largest drugs haul in the country's history. The drugs were found buried beneath 4 banana plantations in the north of the country, close to lucrative smuggling routes used to transport the white powder to the US. In Colombia, this kilo of cocaine is valued at $1,500 US. In the United States market, the price goes up to $30,000 US. It means that this confiscation is valued at $360 million US. The drugs are believed to have been stashed by the infamous Gulf Clan, a powerful drug trafficking gang led by Dairo Usuga, also known as Otoniel, whom Colombian authorities have been trying to capture for years.
In a marked contrast to past criticism of China, Donald Trump has said he blames previous US presidents and not Beijing for its trade surplus with Washington. Following a lavish ceremony and military parade at the Great Hall of the People on Thursday, Trump challenged his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping to rebalance their country's economic relationship. He also called on China to quickly fix the problem of North Korea.
Both the United States and China will have a more prosperous future if we can achieve a level economic playing field. Right now, unfortunately, it is a very one-sided and unfair one. But I don't blame China. After all, who can blame a country for being able to take advantage of another country for the benefit of its citizens? I give China great credit.
Later, the two leaders oversaw the signing of various business deals between US and Chinese companies valued at around 215 billion euros. It's unclear, however, how many of the contracts were new or simply past deals saved for the visit.
A general strike on Wednesday, called by pro-independence campaigners in Catalonia, continued on into the night. Hundreds of strikers gathered in Barcelona's main railway station to protest against the imprisonment of politicians, chanting the name of ex-leader Carles Puigdemont. The reason we're blocking the trains is so that they know we're here and what we're fighting for, because after seeing what happened, they haven't paid attention to us on several occasions, so they can't avoid this. This is happening. The action caused major disruption to passengers who, like the rest of Spain's northeastern region, were divided in their support. They simply don't have anything to do. They're just people who don't have anything to do. They're bothering those of us who are working. I think it's good because for a long time in this country we've asked, where are the young people? At this difficult moment, it's the young people that have come out and they're the ones who need to build their futures. And that's what they're fighting for. As a young man in the 80s, I did the same. Then we didn't get the result we wanted. Hopefully these youngsters will achieve the end result they hoped for. Earlier in the evening, thousands gathered in front of Barcelona's cathedral. Spain's national government, which has imposed direct rule on Catalonia, hopes that after fresh elections in the region, there will be a return to what it calls normality.
Russia is opposing a draft United Nations resolution to extend the mandate of an international inquiry into chemical weapons attacks in Syria.
And the Syrian Arab Republic.
Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov's remarks on Wednesday that the country would not support the resolution came a few hours after Russia rejected a report by the Joint Investigative Mechanism blaming the Syrian government for a deadly toxic gas attack.
There can now be no higher priority for the Security Council than to renew the Joint Investigative Mechanism. Anyone who prevents us from achieving this goal is aiding and abetting those who have been using chemical weapons in Syria.
It is no coincidence that the text, including the part about analyzing what happened in Khan Saikun, is full of expressions such as possibly, probably, might be, suppose, most likely. Mr. Moulet, do you really think this kind of terminology is acceptable in a report on such a serious matter? Meanwhile, the Syrian government accused US and Turkish troops of illegally invading the country. Turkey today is a colonizer country. Its forces on our soil are illegal, just as the American forces on our soil are also illegal. Shaban also said in a televised interview that Damascus would not give up on the northern city of Raqqa, which was liberated from Islamic State last month by the US-backed Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces.
The Duero River, one of the symbols of the Iberian Peninsula, has never before been seen like this at this time of year, 60% dry. The snow that by now should be covering the landscape above 2,000 metres has been replaced by temperatures of over 25 degrees Celsius. It's a situation which has become critical. This woman says, I can't remember seeing the reservoir so big, so empty. It's very important to open a political debate over the lack of water. What will happen if there isn't any more? In Portugal, the driest October in 20 years has triggered a government-backed campaign to save water. It's more than just a hosepipe ban. Clean, drinkable water is now having to be delivered by tankers to some communities. Suddenly, what was once thought to be a problem confined to the Third World has arrived in southern Europe.
French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife Brigitte joined Abu Dhabi's Crown Prince and Dubai's ruler at the official opening of the Louvre Abu Dhabi. Macron walked through the galleries of the new museum a decade after the signing of an agreement worth over $1 billion to share the name and some of the artworks of the world-famous Parisian Museum. He said the museum was an important cultural achievement.
Ce qui se joue ici est profondément différent.
What is up for stakes here is very important, because in reality there is nothing more urgent, more important than the promotion of culture, education, beauty, and everything which seems to express humanity's highest level. The museum sits under a honeycomb dome of 8 layers of Arab-style geometric shapes and was designed by French architect Jean Nouvel. It's hoped the Louvre Abu Dhabi will help position the city as a centre of cultural tourism that will draw visitors from around the world.
British Aid Minister Priti Patel has resigned after failing to disclose meetings she held with Israeli officials during a holiday in August. She apologised but was ordered to return from an official trip to Africa for a meeting with Prime Minister Theresa May. In a letter, she wrote that her actions had fallen below the high standards that were expected of her position, and she apologised for causing a distraction from the work of the government. Further undermining May's authority, there have been calls for Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson to resign after he mistakenly said jailed aid worker Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was teaching journalism before her arrest in Iran last year. May's most senior minister, Damien Green, is also under investigation after claims that pornography was found on one of his work computers. He denies any wrongdoing. And last week, close May ally Michael Fallon, the defence minister, was forced to resign over a growing sexual misconduct scandal.
Assim que nós apresentamos é notícia internacional. Nós passa para corte publicitário, ora nós back e deporte.